Hi everyone, I'm back with another podcast for you all, and this episode I'm going to be talking about the recent news that Saban has officially sold the rights of Power Rangers as its entirety to Hasbro, costing somewhere around about $552 million. So first off, was I surprised about this? Well, kinda. I mean, it came out of the blue, which was totally unexpected anyway. However, at least I wasn't really expecting Hasbro to claim the official rights for probably at least towards the end of the year. So it was a surprise as to how quick the transition from Saban to Hasbro happened so quickly. And I believe it was around about February time, correct me if I'm wrong, that they bought the Master Toy licensing, which I think cost somewhere around about $22.25 million. I'm not quite sure when this comes into full effect because I believe that Bandai's contract will be up somewhere around about the end of the year, and I think so. It'd be interesting to see what Hasbro brings to the table, what new and interesting things will be available for us fans to buy and purchase. I mean, let's think about it. Hasbro pretty much was a potential buyer from it as soon as they bought the toy licensing back in February, as I mentioned. But again, I wasn't really expecting this to happen. But obviously the full rights handover to Hasbro happened, I believe, on the 1st of May. But in the meantime, Hasbro had released a press release saying that Power Rangers is an iconic brand built on a heritage of great storytelling and merchandise with tremendous upside potential when fully executed across Hasbro. Shortly after entering into our licensing arrangement, it became clear that now was the time for us to begin investing in unlocking Power Rangers' full potential. And I quote, full potential. They went on to say that we see significant opportunity for Power Rangers across the entire brand blueprint, including toys, games, customer products, digital gaming and entertainment, as well as geographically throughout our global retail footprint. We couldn't be more pleased that Haim Saban will now continue to consult the role with further guidance in developing this vulnerable property for the next generation of Power Ranger fans. Close quote. So it does sound like Hasbro is acknowledging the fans and the actual franchise's potential, which is something we're still kind of waiting to see them unlock that. And like I said, quote unquote, unlocking its full potential. If they can see the potential, as they say, I hope that they utilise that and they're willing to embrace the franchise as a whole, and we as fans then can see what potentially would come from that. Because if you think about it, the franchise is in dire need of help, and I think, as they say, unlocking its full potential, I know the show has so much more potential, and I hope that they stick to their guns on that. So now that we know Bandai and Saban brands will soon be out of the picture, however, in the statement, of course, said Saban himself will be involved, but more of a kind of, I don't know what you would call it, more of a advisory consulting kind of role to Hasbro, which I'm guessing is okay, but it also means he doesn't have a unanimous decision, so that's a good thing. So it gives Hasbro a bit more creativity to, do whatever they want to do and ease the transition between the two of them. It'd be interesting to see what comes of that. Again, I don't really know if Haim plans to stick around for a while or for a short period of time. The only downside about this still, I believe, is that unfortunately the contract with Nickelodeon has been renewed. I think that's been renewed to 2021, I believe. To be honest, I think that's kind of a bad idea being with them. I mean, bear in mind that deal, I believe, was made by Saban himself with Nickelodeon. So I don't know whether Hasbro may decide to pull that. It depends on how the contract works and finds a suitable choice. I think if Hasbro were to find a channel, they'd probably go with the hub If not that, maybe Netflix. I don't really know where they'd go with it, but I'm thinking off the top of my head, those two choices are more likely to be the case if they do decide to pull it from Nickelodeon. But as far as we know, Power Rangers is still going to be on Nickelodeon until 2021. Whether they go with that afterwards, we'll see. Like I said, I think it's kind of a bad idea with them going with Nickelodeon, which, to be honest, if you think about it, it seems a bit of an odd contract plan if you think about it. I mean, I thought it'd be something like 2 or 4 years, to kind of make it even, but 3 years to me seems a very strange contract plan with Nickelodeon, but it is what it is, I guess. But again, I suppose going on from that, does this mean Power Rangers will be split over a 3-season? I mean, think about it. I hope they don't do that, because I don't want to do this, stupid, crappy season formula thing that they've been doing for the past 8 years, which I believe it has been now. But again, I like to have faith that Hasbro won't do this and be more independent and be on their own, their decisions. It really depends on how the contract works. I mean, can Hasbro pull when the contract with Nickelodeon finishes within 3 years' time? That would leave the question, what kind of network would Hasbro go with? Would they go with the Hub, or would they go with Netflix? Well, as of now, I guess, Hasbro does technically own the full rights. Both, I believe, to the Saban era, the original Saban era, I mean, Disney era, as well as the Neo Saban era. Another thing that would be interesting to see, and I'm curious to know whether Hasbro will do this, but will they be continuing the Legacy line? I mean, I hope so, as the Legacy line seems to be the only thing at the moment worth buying. Well, minus the Legacy Gold Ranger figure, but that's a whole different story. But this does kind of also open up the question as to what else will manifest within the Legacy line and toy line. And as such, we could be expecting to see at least, I mean, in my opinion, I would like to at least see some prototypes and concepts of what is possibly to come. Well, not at the very least, at the very latest. I think they might use Morphicon probably to promote this stuff, because Power Morphicon is kind of the big get-together for PR fans pretty much around the world of Power Rangers. So it'll be interesting to actually see what kind of concepts they developed. I did hear somewhere, I read, and I don't know if this is true, could be a rumour, but I like to believe that it is true, that I heard that Hasbro are interested in using the original molds for the toys that were used in the Japanese toy line 8 years ago. Tokuma Sentai Go Busters, I believe, was. So they're going to use the old molds. You're not going to get the Bandai America crappy line, you're actually going to get the proper figures, as I would say, which is great because it actually shows that Hasbro is going to put a lot of work into their toys. So I'm pretty sure this also means that they're going to have to put some kind of effort into the actual show as well, right? Because why would you put it into, I mean, granted, you'd want to sell toys, that is your primary concern, but like I said many times before, you're kind of using image to sell, which is good for a certain, up to a certain extent, but you need to have a good structure and story and characters to be able to sell those toys, or that image, so to speak. Also, another thing that's been brought to my attention, I don't know if anyone has noticed this, but I believe somewhere within about 5 years away now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, so that would make it, 2023. Looking into the future of the franchise under Hasbro, how will they handle the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers? Well, first off, better, I hope. I also hope that as long as they imply the right elements within creating a proper, memorable and celebrated anniversary, whether would it be celebrated as a season or a special? So that'd be something interesting to know. Again, I probably think a little too far ahead here, but it's also something to consider. Hasbro know that this is going to come eventually, so they need to be prepared for it. Also, I'm pretty sure I called this a few days ago before it was probably mentioned, which again, it would seem a logical thing to do anyway, so it's no surprise. Obviously, it was mentioned that the Power Rangers to the sequel to the 2017 Lionsgate movie has been scrapped, and it's most likely they're going to go with Paramount Pictures to basically give it a reboot and start again. Now, I suppose, would they have the same actors? Would they have new actors? I mean, there is potential for recasting, but again, we don't really know much about it because it's still early days. But I'm kind of interested to see where they would go with that. I'd like to see Hasbro extend and create a cinematic universe, kind of like what they've been doing with Marvel. They've built it over 10 years for the Avengers, the cinematic universe. So, why can't Power Rangers have the same treatment? This is the time to actually take the show in a much bigger, bolder, and more exciting route that I believe could do the franchise as a whole some justice. Again, if done right and having the proper people involved, anything is possible. So I really think that this is something that Hasbro should take into consideration and develop a plan and conceptualize how they're going to achieve this. It would make sense for Hasbro to go with Paramount Pictures, because if you think about it, Hasbro and Paramount are kind of like one of the same in a sense within terms of the Transformers cinematic franchise. So it would make sense that they're already partnered together, so it makes sense that it's most likely that Paramount will probably take over Power Rangers and develop their films from there. There's definitely a lot of potential in this to do so, and where this could take the Power Rangers franchise, like I said, would it be a reboot? Is it because obviously I believe it's highly possible that they could continue with Lionsgate, but at the same time it is most likely that they're going to go with Paramount, because obviously Hasbro are kind of in relations with them, so it makes sense they'll probably go through them to do the next movie or to reboot the franchise, which again is also highly likely. I mean, again, there is a chance, but it's more likely to go with Paramount than they are with Lionsgate. So, as of other Power Ranger products such as Legacy Wars, the Boom Studio Comics, Hyperforce, I don't know, maybe future and potential spin-offs with Hasbro, because why not? Also, a fun fact for you all, when Beast Morphers debates, I could have this wrong, but I believe that it will be the 10th anniversary of RPM, which is kind of ironic if you think about it. And what I mean by that is, well, not only did RPM start with 3 core Rangers, i.e. your red, your blue and your yellow, and later joined by gold and silver as well along the line, this could be considered somewhat of a similar. And for villain contrast, being both in RPM and Go Busters, the villains you could say are somewhat similar in terms of being like a Data or a Virus type villain, and also somewhat of a dark and backstory. So could Beast Morphers be the continuation of RPM? But also another trivia thing I think I realised, which I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of odd. Just, random and such a random and coincidental thought. I thought to myself, did anyone actually, kind of make the connection that when Disney took over with Ninja Storm, that they started with 3 primary Rangers as well, which was red, blue and yellow again. Now that Hasbro has taken over from Saban, they'll also be starting with Beast Morphers, but also be starting with the same primary colours, red, blue and yellow. So another interesting thing is, could Beast Morphers exist within the RPM universe? Or even Beast Morphers be a sequel to RPM? For sure it could be possible. Another good thing is it would help re-establish continuity within the Power Rangers universe again, which is something we haven't had for quite some time. And you could also say the Messiah, wherever his counterpart will be in Beast Morphers, could be Vengix returning. Because if you think about it, RPM was kind of left on a cliffhanger. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it was something to do with that. If I remember that towards the end of the final scene in RPM, I'm pretty sure it was something to do with the Rangers have to give up their morphers to Dr. K, and they put them in this briefcase that was going to be locked away. But before when all the Rangers put their morphers back into this case, just before Dr. K closes it, you can see the morphers were glowing red. So it's kind of like Venjix was trapped inside them. But again, you can see a little glimmer of that just before the case closed on them, leaving a potential revisit to the RPM universe. And I thought, this could have been a setup for obviously Samurai and a possible team with RPM, but of course we didn't really get. I mean, you did get Scott kind of come back in the form of ADR, but, it doesn't really kind of count as a team up, if you know what I mean. But again, it's a whole completely different story. But from what I said there, I think that could actually work. At least that's what I would do. Oh, and before I forget, I managed to speak to Ron Wasserman the other day, and we had a brief discussion and, check on each other, see how things are. And I kind of put to him, I said, so what do you think about Beast Morphers? He said he was surprised by the news himself, as I'm pretty sure we all were. And I also went on to say, by any chance, would you consider coming back under Hasbro? And he says that it could take probably about 6 to 9 months, probably for Hasbro to kind of figure out where they want to go with things. Because obviously these things for post-production, so on and so forth, which is understandable. It takes time to find your footings, especially if you're starting up fresh and new. But it sounds like he hopes to hear from them eventually, and that he has a few people that are going to keep him in the loop, and hope to make connection with Hasbro as soon as he can. So it sounds like there is the potential for Ron actually coming back, which would be fantastic. Because, let's be honest, I don't need to go into the whole how the music has been about Power Rangers lately, because if you want to, well, you could probably figure it out for yourselves, but you can also check my first podcast of this series to actually listen to what I've said about that, which will pretty much give you the gist of how I felt about the Power Rangers music without Ron, and that we need him to kind of give us that raw fire and energy that we've been missing for such a long time, and that originality as well, which is, don't get me started on that. But the point I'm trying to get at is, Ron really knows what he's doing. He has this, like I said, he has this raw fire and energy within the music that he creates for the show, and also at the same time, he also puts the power back in Power Rangers. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. I hope he gets it. I hope he gets back in there. And he told me that, so I thought that'd be pretty interesting. So it is possible that we could see Ron back again, not guaranteed yet. I hope that he does. Again, this is all down to Hasbro. If Hasbro want to be serious about the franchise, bringing Ron back will be a huge potential step up for the franchise. No doubt about it. So let's just hope that he actually can get back in there. It'll be interesting to see, considering now they're adapting Tokuba Sentai Go Busters into Power Rangers Beast Morphers, it'll be interesting to see, will we get adaptations of other Skip Sentais, such as Resha Sentai Tokuja and Yuchu Sentai Q Ranger. It's possible. I mean, if they're going to go back over a Sentai that's 8 years old, I believe now, and adapt that into Power Rangers, what is the chance that they're going to adapt anything else that's, slightly newer? I think, with the right circumstances, I think it can work. Again, it depends on how Hasbro wants to play things. Again, we can only speculate, like I said, but at the same time, it depends on how serious Hasbro want to be. If they want to be serious, again, it's something to add to the list. And I really, really hope that Hasbro has been paying attention to what has been said from fans for years and years, and actually take that on board when developing Beast Morphers and looking at, fans don't like this, I don't like that, we're going to avoid those because we know it didn't work before. You know, it's the littlest things that can make the biggest difference. And most of those changes are small, but like I said, they have the biggest impact. But most of them, they do fall down to common sense. So I hope Hasbro is kind of, for all we know, they could be listening to this. I don't know. But if they are listening, I think they are smart enough to kind of realise what they should and what they shouldn't do. I just hope that they do the franchise and us fans some justice. So that's pretty much it for this podcast. There isn't really much to talk about in this podcast, as it's pretty much early days, and it really comes down to what we can hope and speculate for now. So let me know what you guys think. How would you like Hasbro to handle the franchise moving forward? Let me know, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But until next time, this is the end of this podcast, and I'd like to thank you for listening.